We're back with more NBA playoff coverage, and in this one, I will be covering all the Game 4 action of the conference semifinals round. So, to get things started with the Thunder and Nuggets on Sunday. This first quarter might have certainly produced sloppy offense from both teams. I mean, neither team for the longest time could really get any of their shots to fall, especially when it comes to perimeter shooting. Neither of them. And that would remain the case for at least most of this game. And then the Nuggets continued to get themselves in a hole with just errant shooting on their own hand, and also Nikola Jokic continuing to get blitzed and double teamed and everything. Every sort of tactic you can think of was pulled out simply just to limit his capabilities in this game, which had been the case also for most of this series. So it was not it wasn't without a lack of just sloppy execution from both sides. But at the same time, if you are a person who normally prefers the up-tempo offense and just fast pacing with just high scoring, if you favor that, this first quarter certainly was not for you. Because even though both teams did a fairly poor job of executing in the same way, when it came to defense, the Nuggets came to play, feeding a little bit off of how they ended Game 3 by just boat racing them in overtime and at least trying to limit all of their outside shooting. Although Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, to this point, and to the Thunder's benefit, did have a solid start to the game, giving them an advantage. But the Thunder as well, as we've stated all season long, while they might have had strong offensive outputs, while they may have been able to do what they did against the Grizzlies in the first damn game of this year's first round matchup, their defense has been their calling card all season long. As good as their offense can be, their defense is historically great, led by players who just have a knack for contributing on both sides of the basketball until they literally cannot move anymore. There were so many plays involving just straight up hustle, even when Nuggets players would get content out in transition. A player like Cason Wallace or Alex Caruso is just hawking down people for steals or stopping easy possessions and then forcing them to play the Thunder in their set defense. And that continued to pose problem for the Nuggets all game long. But as I mentioned, again, the perimeter shooting was not necessarily the best at all. The Thunder would get some to fall early on, but they were not very efficient themselves. And when it came to the end, they combined, the Thunder and Nuggets, for just 25 first quarter points, the fewest in any postseason first quarter in NBA history. Again, a combination of both. You can have it be a little bit of sloppy offense, but they're literally just surgical defense all over the place. Nobody was expecting it, but hey, it's what happens when everything is on the line. And granted, for the Thunder to have a 17-8 advantage in this situation, similar thing. They could not allow themselves to get just completely stuck when it came to how they fared in the overtime period in Game 3. Because they didn't do a lick. And just as easily as things seemed to carry over for the Nuggets, it certainly could have for the Thunder and could have made this game way worse if they didn't get on their shit immediately so as to shut all of that down off the rip. The Thunder would continue to lead the way in the second quarter, going up by 15 with a 23-18 lead. However, to the Nuggets' credit, in a slow and grueling way, they would work themselves back into the game. And it came by drawing as many fouls as possible, as many shooting fouls as possible. The Nuggets were not necessarily able to generate a lot of opportunities from the field when it came to just getting up attempts for a while. But as the quarter went on, especially during the first half, there were multiple sequences where even in set defense, all of the Nuggets players to an extent, whether it was Nikola Jokic or Jamal Murray or even Christian Braun, just getting a few free throws at a time, stacking together some free points to shorten the lead. And eventually they would get within 5 with Russell Westbrook, of all people, finally breaking their streak. Like, the Thunder had been shooting horribly from deep, but at the same time, they got at least a couple to go. The Nuggets, meanwhile, opened up the damn game with 16 straight three-point misses. And the one to break that was Russell Westbrook, of all people on this particular play. It's great sense of irony right there. There's just no shot in hell that happens. But anyways, they would kind of revert back to some sloppy tendencies because they just gave up multiple open looks to Alex Caruso to help the Thunder get back a larger lead. And shit like this is how you know that Nikola Jokic was still just struggling. Like, his three-point shot at the end of the half, because, again, he hadn't made one to that point either, he had to literally chuck it up while falling forward after Hartenstein contested his shot. Again, while he can affect the game in a variety of ways, it seems like the Thunder have been able to speed up his clock. This is what you have to kind of understand. Like, even with him being as dynamic as he is, he's used to playing a much slower game. Again, to where he dictates the pace and flow of the overall match. With the sheer amount of pressure that they keep sending his way, it's not going to come that easy. And they were doing the same thing with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the Nuggets, don't get me wrong. But as fate would have it, especially when we go down the stretch into the third and fourth quarter, they would eventually pick it up. But first, you would see a flurry from the Nuggets offense overall, as while they struggled to get threes to go in the first half alone. They shot highly effective from deep in just the third quarter, even giving themselves, by the end of this flurry, a 6-point lead heading into the end of the third quarter, with Russell Westbrook once more making himself a factor and hitting another one in this game. And with a good string of defensive possessions, they would enter the fourth quarter with that same lead. But again, like I mentioned, the Thunder, whether it was just some more just very incomprehensible mistakes being made by the Nuggets when it came to turnovers again, or whether it was guys like Cason Wallace, Aaron Wiggins, and also Alex Caruso once more just exposing them. Because, again, you're sending a couple bodies every time. And even the broadcast team pointed out that they were more than comfortable double-teaming Shai Gilgeous-Alexander if they needed to, no matter in what context. But, again, most of those are going to come on drives. So you're going to take all your attention and place it on him without ensuring that your rotations are in a great enough spot to account for those perimeter players. They fucked up tremendously on those assignments in this one. Like, it began to rain threes for sure, but over the course of what would be a 27-14 closeout run from the Thunder, it wasn't truly working in Denver's favor here. And again, Jokic would try, as the game was slipping away, try to generate some form of scoring, but they were just on it at every turn. And at that point, somebody else had to put it on their shoulders, but they simply were not able to. That is how just tight the defense was playing. Jokic would get a shot to cut it down to 5, but now they had to play the foul game, and they couldn't get up enough makes in time to truly make things interesting. So after going out in a pretty anticlimactic way in overtime, the Thunder, in a great defensive game overall, especially highlighted by a first quarter where you can hold the Nuggets to just 8 points, and for most of the first half to not even allow a single three, like, that is impressive. Even if 92-87 scores don't necessarily jump off the page at you, there's something to be said about the Thunder being as young as they are and yet still able to make this experienced Nuggets team, who beat them with that essentially in the last game, now conform to their will. And this was played in Denver too. So now you have to play their brand of basketball. And though it was a little rough, the Thunder were ultimately able to stick with it and pull out a 5-point victory. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists with 2 steals on 8 of 19 shooting. Didn't make a 3. Cason Wallace and Aaron Wiggins both had 11 points on 3 threes apiece. Alex Caruso also had 10. The usual suspects in Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, and even Luguentz Dort to an extent struggled. So the Nuggets weren't completely devoid of just being able to attack in their own way on defense either. But it ultimately was played like a chess match. And the Thunder, over the course of the game, were able to make better moves at the right time. But as for Jalen Williams, he would have 10 points, 5 assists, and 3 steals on 2 of 13 shooting. Not great. Chet Holmgren would have 8 points and 13 rebounds on 4 of 10 shooting. Definitely could do a lot better for a center. You just generally want to see that. And for Dort, he had 10 damn three-pointers attempted, but had just 6 points and made just 2 of them. He only played 19 minutes as well. So again, when it came to being off the bench, Dagnall probably favored some of these other guys more at that point, given what they were providing in the moment. And that's the scary thing. Like, even if people want to say that this wasn't necessarily a dominant game from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, they can still go out and win because they are that deep and they are that versatile as a ball club. So where even if that's not happening, everything is more than good as long as they just hold it down with their game plan. They're more than set. As for the Nuggets, Nikola Jokic had 27 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, and 4 steals. But again, just 7 of 22 shooting. He had to get 11 free throws as well. For a person who is usually accurate, very accurate, from the field, it's shocking to see these percentages now. I mean, like, that's a testament to how the Thunder have been playing him all series long. And if they were able to have that happen for them essentially 3 games in a row now, clearly that's not a fluke. Their system is truly working. There's a chance that Jokic can shake out of it. But, well, if he's able to do that successfully, that remains to be seen, of course. Christian Braun and Jamal Murray had 17 points. Aaron Gordon had 15 points and 16 rebounds with 6 assists on 5 of 10 shooting with 3 threes. Russell Westbrook and Michael Porter Jr. both had horrible games as well. Combined 3 for 19 shooting with 2 of 14 shooting from deep between the two and 9 total points. Absolutely unacceptable from those two. Like, they needed much more firepower from at least one of those guys, or even just more efficiency from both. You probably could win the game or be in a much better spot than going through stretches where they literally couldn't do anything on the offensive side of the basketball. So I'm telling you right now, if they don't clean that up, it's heading back to Oklahoma. They better clean that up before Game 5. Because that would just be absolutely tragic to continue to have Nikola Jokic struggle and then not even be able to consistently provide him with support. I mean, not a lot has happened when it comes to like personnel changes or anything between these two teams from Sunday to today. There simply hasn't been. Everything is all the same, and on Sunday, well, in Game 3 rather, they were able to get the help they needed for Jokic. So what the hell happened so quickly to where none of those guys are factors at all after becoming some of the core reasons why they ended up winning in the last one? It's just like you gotta have more consistency on your plate. But I guess, again, with the Nuggets, that's a little hard to find, right? In any situation like this, you would trust your bench, only they do not necessarily run a deep rotation because their players, at least some of them, just aren't playable in a series like this. So they wouldn't even worry about it. But yeah, hopefully they can shake it back, and they're going to need to. Because at the very least, you're going to have to win 2 of these games. You only have so little margin for error at this point. You cannot afford to continue dropping ones like this because they really could have gotten it. In the perfect scenario, they would have won this game. But alas, you head back to Oklahoma in an even series. And it had been a competitive series all season long. So I guess it's not the most surprising thing in the world. Maybe you're exactly where you want to be. But Jokic has definitely got to step up to the plate. There's no denying that. And if he isn't, well, again, Jamal Murray has honestly done his best to show. But I'm looking at everybody else, and I'm just asking for some form of consistency here so that this team can remain alive, at least for a little bit longer, rather than just go out sad to the Thunder in this postseason. Moving on to the Cavs and the Pacers on Sunday. Did I watch it? Nope. Did I track it? Absolutely. Did the best I could to. How bad was it? I don't even have the words to describe it. The worst possible scenario that the Cavs could face just elevated into even more tragedy. Again, you lose the first two games in relatively close fashion, and especially game two, of course. You do get game three in a blowout, but game four, again, obviously a great chance to even things up. You're at full strength, and you have momentum to some level carrying over. But very quickly, it seemed like the Pacers understood that they were definitely in the driver's seat when it came to where their current standing. I mean, all you needed really was to get one game at home. You already did the thing by stealing home court advantage. You needed just one, and this game would certainly see them get it. Now, I did end up seeing everything play out in post, and let's just say that instantly, when you have a team at home being able to run up the score like that and just pile it on that fast, fill the box score up that quickly, frustrations are going to arise to an extent. And I'm sure that tension was felt far below the surface. I saw something about Max Strus pushing Tyrese Halliburton, I would suppose out of frustration. And then Turner and Halliburton proceed to hit 4 straight threes or something like that. Things like that. Still, there was something else that did develop during the second quarter, which I found pretty interesting after seeing it in post. Benedict Mathurin did get ejected after just, I don't even know what the hell he was trying to do to DeAndre Hunter, but it got him so bad that he staggered to the ground for a second, got back up, walks back over to Benedict Mathurin, points at him as Benedict Mathurin is just holding his hands up, and he pushes the shit out of him. But given whatever it was that Mathurin was trying to do to him, I guess trying to hurt him or whatever, that's fair for Hunter to do that in that moment. And keep in mind, DeAndre Hunter is not a player that shows emotion like that. He's usually a man that just ends up, just doing what he does and then calling it a day. He doesn't do all that shit. So, I was feeling that something had to happen in order for him to just be compelled to do that. And we got our answer pretty quickly. Also, another interesting development from this, and very important, mind you, is that Donovan Mitchell at halftime would end up being ruled out for the rest of the game with what I think they stated was an ankle injury. It was certainly tough for them to be losing him anyways. And currently, as it stands, I don't even know if there's a true answer right now, because they expect him, as they've stated, to be a game time decision for tonight's game. So we do not have an answer on what his status is. It would be a huge loss, and it might give the Pacers even greater of an opportunity to capitalize and potentially win the series. Because obviously, this Cavs team is considered to be one of the deepest rosters in the NBA. At the same time, with the fact that Donovan Mitchell has been on absolute elite timing when it comes to his play in the playoffs so far, and especially in this series, where he came into yesterday night, not yesterday night. He came into the game on Sunday averaging 41 points a game. Like, no matter how you slice it, even if you aren't necessarily a person that watches the box score, you can't deny a 41 points per game scorer in any playoff series certainly is going to be a major focus when it comes to your offensive output. And it's certainly going to be the contributions of one of your core guys, which is what Donovan Mitchell is, as potentially, I guess some would say, the only superstar on this team. Nonetheless, he's definitely their best player. And to lose that potentially to an injury of that sort is just always unfortunate. Now, even then, even if there are Cavs fans out there who might be salty at what the potential results could be if Donovan Mitchell doesn't return to this game or doesn't return to the series at the same time, you cannot deny that even when he was in the game, they were down by 41 points. This was just a very, very great night for the Pacers on both sides of the basketball because of the entire idea of dictating the pace of a basketball game. As ironic as it might sound, that is their core strength. For them to keep on stacking up buckets like that consistently, and not just from one player, but a flurry of players. I mean, 7 different players hit double digits. And 3 ended up scoring 20. None of them being Tyrese Halliburton, because he didn't have to play that much time and had 11 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists on 3 of 8 shooting with just a single 3. I mean, you had Pascal Siakam for essentially the first time in this series have a pretty good performance with 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. Miles Turner had 20 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists of his own on 7-13 shooting with perfect shooting from deep. Ben Shepherd came in late and just started going crazy from scoring as well, finishing with 14. T.J. McConnell continues to hold it down as a floor general off the bench and put up 13 points on 9 shots. Aaron Nesmith had a halftime buzzer beater to bring them up to 80 points in the first half and would have 12 points on 4 of 8 shooting with 2 threes of his own. And then Obi Toppin, out of nowhere, also decides to have a 20-point game off the bench with 5 rebounds and 2 assists on 9 of 14 shooting with a 3. Just elite distribution all around, with multiple people getting fed, and as a result, the Cavs were simply no match. Not to mention defensively as well, because none of their core players outside of Donovan Mitchell for a while were doing much of anything. Darius Garland did finish with 21 points and 6 assists, but he also had 5 fouls, and a lot of this was in garbage time. Isaac Okoro would have 13 points. Max Strus would have 11. Evan Mobley would have 10 and 5. And then for a player that is usually good in Jarrett Allen, even he couldn't really make anything happen. I mean, he literally scored just 2 points while not making any of his shots from the field. He only attempted 1. Think about that for a second. Like, even if you consider the Pacers' defense to be weaker, for them to deny pretty much any look for Jarrett Allen on the inside definitely helped, because to continue to give up offensive rebounds to a person built like that will naturally temper the tempo of a game. And through, they just dominated all throughout. I mean, damn near 53% clip from the field, 23 more shots than them combined. They won the three-point battle, and they were more protective of the basketball while being able to dish it out to so many different people on just a single one. I mean, the fact that they had 35 points off of turnovers, 22 turnovers, by the way, for the Cavs, which is just absurd to think about. The fact that that can happen opened the door wide open for them. And although, again, you can debate that they do tend to face teams, at least over the past couple of years, that deal with injuries to key players at the same time, man. You still have to go out and execute and play the team in front of you on that court. You can't necessarily control a player getting hurt. You can only do what you are expected to do as a player during a given match. And the Pacers have more than exceeded those in so many ways, winning 129-109 as they head back over to Cleveland for Game 5. We will see if Donovan Mitchell does play, but there is literally nothing set in stone right now. We have no idea. Moving on to the Knicks and the Celtics, and off the rip, you're in Madison Square Garden. You obviously lost in pretty bad fashion to the Celtics in the last one. I think it was their largest home loss or something in franchise playoff history. So that certainly couldn't have gone any worse. I would have expected New York to start out much faster, but once more, they gave up another 16-6 run to open things up. And honestly, it came in just a terrible way. I mean, Derek White alone had 9 points on perfect shooting. And he literally didn't have to think about hoisting up any of them. I kid you not. They were in similar sets running the exact same kind of play. And Mikal Bridges, happened to be the odd man out every time because for whatever reason, he was not aligned to his zone in that moment and making sure to cover that area of the court. That's just lazy defense at that point. So naturally, they were going to be able to just capitalize off that completely. Now, as Mikal Bridges would start to get himself more involved on the offensive side, getting back-to-back shots made to bring the game within 5, the Knicks would start to storm back a little bit as they would temporarily take a lead over the course of a 22-11 run from them. Even getting a 1-point lead with Jalen Brunson at the minute 31 second mark at the near end of the first quarter. But then they allowed Jayson Tatum to go nuclear. He would hit within that time span 3 3-pointers of his own, as Peyton Pritchard would also get one in, just splashing it right over Deuce McBride's head. And that last one would see Jayson Tatum get the damn buzzer beater, bringing them up back to a lead of 11, and the Celtics going on a quick 12-0 run to close out the first quarter. It was embarrassing. And that continued on. Though things would become a lot slower, naturally, when Mitchell Robinson got himself into the ball game. As the Knicks were also having a few defensive breakdowns of their own, just not doing a great overall job of crashing the glass, and the Celtics being able to get it back out to open shooters for routine makes. Which, again, I guess as long as they're open, no matter what we think about their lack of propensity for driving, they're just going to continue to fire shots up. Like, that's a given at that point. And the Celtics would continue to extend their lead, even with the Knicks slowly but surely chipping their way back into it. And a large portion of what made up their lead as well is that impressively, up until literally the end of the first half, the Celtics defense, despite their offense being a little reckless at times, I mean, bro, there were still shots that were just questionable. Like Jaylen Brown chucked up one in the corner where it was so contested, and he had such high arc on it, and it missed badly. Shit like that was still going on for the offense, but at least for the defense, they were very disciplined. I mean, for a while there, they had not fouled all that much in the half. The first 22 minutes and 40 seconds of the game, they did not commit a single shooting foul, didn't give up a single free throw. Now, that would change as Jalen Brunson would draw 2 shooting fouls and get 4 free throws within this minute 20-second span. But that's besides the point. If you can avoid allowing the Knicks, especially when it comes to Jalen Brunson, to be able to match your physicality or just get you into awkward positions, well, you've certainly got a chance to put this thing away. Again, as we've seen, the Celtics had blown multiple 20-point leads, but in this game, as far as that goes, they hadn't necessarily reached that point. So maybe the fortunes would change for them just a little bit. No. Now, despite them going on a 10-2 run and getting Kristaps Porzingis more involved, with Jayson Tatum also continuing to affect the game in multiple ways, whether it was literally this sequence in the early third quarter where Derek White is just able to leak into the corner without any contest and get a 3-point shot to go that way. Or getting some buckets of his own. Again, a lot of these, we're still seeing him try to shoot as much as possible, although he did take advantage of free lanes whenever he saw fit, getting a dunk at this portion here. But the Knicks would not be denied. Simply put, Jalen Brunson and OG Anunoby would get themselves involved tremendously at this point, especially when it came to Jalen Brunson having 16 third-quarter points and just making the Celtics cling to the victory that they were holding right now. It was just hanging on by merely a little thread. With that sequence of time alone, you figured that the Knicks would be able to get themselves back into it. And again, with OG Anunoby taking the lead and then Josh Hart getting a damn tough layup at the rim near the end, the Knicks would have a 3-point lead at the end of this time. Now, all of this would take place over the course of an overall 46-26 run by the Knicks. Now, it wasn't without a lot of, just craziness happening overall. The Knicks would have control, and then you would have Mitchell Robinson eventually, after Jayson Tatum decided to tie up the ball game with another deep-range shot. Karl-Anthony Towns would get a damn no-look pass for a lob to Mitchell Robinson. Like, if you see it in real time, maybe you have to slow it down a little bit. I mean, he literally doesn't look at where he's throwing the damn pass at. And I'm in that moment, I'm thinking, who the hell does he think that he is? But they needed that kind of score at that time, so you have to credit him for that. Still, Jayson Tatum was not to be denied, as he would just continue to get deeper into that bag, just sizing up defenders on the perimeter and taking advantage of smaller and less effective closeouts. Then also getting his will at the rim, or getting to the rim at will, and being able to force an and one opportunity that would eventually bring the Celtics back within one. As Jayson Tatum during this time would reach over 40 points. Still, so many other people were struggling for the Celtics, and as for the Knicks, they just continued to pile it on. Jalen Brunson to that point was performing absolutely well. Yes, this game was going to be about Jayson Tatum, but Jalen Brunson had a response every time. And he eventually got to a point where he had like 35 points in the ball game and had 10 assists for a double-double as well, all with just a single turnover. The Stars were certainly out for this one. But as for the Knicks, at least their role players knew when it was time to take over, as Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby would get buckets to go and force the timeout. The rest of this was mostly garbage time. The Celtics would try so many different things, but it ultimately was not enough. And the Knicks would win 121-113 to close out Game 4. But the biggest development from this time has to do with the Celtics, even with the Knicks being able to go up 3-1. Because there are major implications for this. Now, as the tides were turning, and as I believe OG Anunoby was getting out there for what would be a key steal in transition to eventually seal the dagger, the Celtics would face one of the more horrific sequences as Jayson Tatum was diving for said basketball and then suffered what appeared to be a non-contact injury. And obviously non-contact injuries can take place at any moment, but this one was especially rough to watch because as soon as the dunk is made, they cut back over to Jayson Tatum, and he is writhing in pain as he is holding his ankle, while also just rolling around and sprawled out on the basketball floor. So at that point, something was certainly up, because you're not going to see that happen normally if this were just a routine injury. No, this was something far different. So they did as best as they could to get him off the court, and he would eventually be removed from the game. Then, as more details would come through, they would state that he would have to get an MRI done, but that it does not necessarily look like the best possible situation. And so I guess people in the organization were asked about it. They didn't want to necessarily comment on it just yet. And really, that's where we stand right now. I mean, I've been trying to see what exactly has been going down. There hasn't been a true source when it comes to what exactly is going on with him yet. Obviously, with the MRI report not being done yet, that's just natural. But it's going to be very important because it looks so bad. And that truly changes the tune of this series. Again, the Celtics, similar thing. I mean, yes, they had put themselves in a hole being much healthier than the Cavs were to this point. And losing multiple 20-point leads like that. They've done it to themselves to start things out to where this Game 4 was a crucial must-win game. And while, Jayson Tatum had struggled and had played horribly, albeit in the first two games, I mean, Game 3 saw him pull off the win, and in Game 4, when they needed it the most, he answered the call. And yet he couldn't even see it all the way through because of something just truly unforeseen. So you just hope that he is okay from there. But it's definitely going to be rough if they have to miss out on that. We're talking about a person in Jayson Tatum who put up 42 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 steals with 2 blocks on 16 of 28 shooting with 7 threes. Derek White stepped up, though, as well, with 23 points of his own on 6 of 11 shooting from deep. Jaylen Brown also had 20 points and 7 rebounds on 7 of 16 shooting. They needed just a little more, though, and could not get it. Meanwhile, Jalen Brunson had 39 points, 12 assists, 5 rebounds, and a single turnover on 14 of 25 shooting with 4 threes. Mikal Bridges and Karl-Anthony Towns had 23 points each, with Karl-Anthony Towns also having 11 rebounds. As for OG Anunoby, he, after combining for just 7 points in the last 2, did have 20 points on 8 of 14 shooting with 4 threes, also adding 3 rebounds and 2 assists. It's a tremendous win if you're the Knicks. And again, you are hoping that Tatum is okay. But that opens the door, as I stated for for the Pacers as well. An injury to someone that important to the team always just opens up the floodgates from there. They just need to be able to take advantage of it, and they're really in good possession. They're in good position here. You just got to win one game. That's all it comes down to. Moving on to the Timberwolves and Warriors, and honestly, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, for the Warriors, things went about as well as they could have in the first half. I mean, you got multiple people involved to where the distribution of points after both the first and second quarter ended up being pretty good. I mean, everyone was getting involved in some capacity. And the offense was seemingly finding its footing a little bit, having at least a 2-point advantage here. The defense also, they were able to force the Timberwolves into some unfavorable situations, just errant turnovers on their own end. And for a good portion of their shots at least, although there were still some defensive lapses that should have been cleaned up, they got fair contests. 2 things went wrong, though. Jimmy Butler III, I don't know what happened. I literally could not tell you. Some of the shots that he did take were a little questionable. And even then, like one of the first attempts, at the very beginning of the game even, you get a chance where you have Jaden McDaniels on your back, and rather than get the full layup and one, you put up a shot to draw the foul, and it ends up being too strong to where you get to the free throw line, sure, but you come away from that possession with just a single point when you could have had 3. Things like that were very interesting. And then also, it just didn't feel like enough was going down. Like, for a person who elevates his game in the playoffs, most of that comes from his own natural instinct. So the fact that he continued in multiple sets to relegate himself to just playing as passively as he was, and even just standing in the corner at times, rather than involving yourself in the action going on the court and doing as best as you can to try to lead the team to victory. I don't know. Because defense as well also didn't provide a lot from Jimmy Butler III in this game. He's usually a very good two-way player, but they were just getting right past him on a good amount of drives. He got caught out of rotation at multiple points. It was just an unexplainable sequence for Jimmy Butler III. The Trayce Jackson-Davis start was good. Once more, he was able to hold it down, getting some solid offensive rebounds to generate a little bit of offense as well, and also holding it down on the defensive front. Even though with having him be a little slow and Julius Randle just continuing to torch that was rough to watch. Like, you could afford it a little bit, but you couldn't afford Anthony Edwards to go off, which is exactly what happened. He was just getting three-pointer after three-pointer to go. His drives to the rim were just so contested, and yet he had just enough touch to get the finishes he desired. His three-point shot was absolutely butter. I mean, it got to a point where even when it felt like the Warriors could make a little bit of a run, you get an Anthony Edwards three, and all of a sudden it's a competitive ball game once more. Even to take the lead down to just two, he got a buzzer beater at halftime. And then the third quarter, with Randle having 17 points at this point again, kind of just taking advantage of smaller defenders being willing to guard. Again, I don't know why in some specific sets they will allow Buddy Hield to get switched on to Julius Randle. I mean, you have to credit the Timberwolves bench and their entire game plan for being able to hunt that down time and time again. But at the same time, if you are the Warriors and you recognize that that's what they're looking for, you've got to adjust at that point. Either way, to allow Anthony Edwards to put up 16 third-quarter points was absolutely ridiculous to watch. And not to mention, too, that the Warriors were literally winning this game still by 2 points. And then the Timberwolves proceed to go on what would be a 43-21 run, including a run where straight up after it was tied 68 all, they just obliterated the Warriors on both sides of the basketball. They couldn't generate stops because they were just getting so many open looks that the Warriors were late to close out on. And then offensively, the Warriors, again, were trying to settle into a rhythm and break the streak, and they just would not relent whatsoever. A 17-0 run after it was tied at 68 all. That is just absurd. That cannot happen. And ultimately, by the fourth quarter, the Warriors were just not able to overcome that because they did need a run at the very start of the fourth quarter, even after being down by as much as 20. They needed some kind of early run to at least make this competitive. They were not able to engineer that, as they would just make terrible mistakes down the stretch there as well. So the Timberwolves would win 117-110, though you can't necessarily be fooled by that final score. Julius Randle literally had 31 points and 5 rebounds on 11 of 21 shooting. Anthony Edwards also had 30 points and 4 rebounds with 5 assists on 11 of 21 shooting with 6 threes. Nickeil Alexander, once more, after having another off game, shot perfect from the field because it was just like clockwork for that shooting during this game. They weren't getting bodies out there fast enough. Michael Conley Jr. had 11. Jaden McDaniels had 10 points and 13 rebounds on 4 of 8 shooting. It was just tough. It was tough. There's nothing more I can say about that. As for the Warriors, Buddy Hield had 13 points on 4 of 11 shooting. Brandon Pajemski had 11 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 steals on 3 of 14 shooting. Again, he does a little bit of everything for sure, but yes, the stretch of just bad shooting has definitely continued to hurt. Of course, there's no denying that. Gotta do better than just 0 of 4 from deep. Draymond, of all people, had 2 3-pointers in this game and had 14 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists of his own on 6 of 14 shooting. Jonathan Kuminga continued to lead the way off the bench with just 23 points on 6 of 13 shooting. Like, at least Kuminga's doing all that he can, but still, when it comes down to it, you obviously have to have other players to step up. I understand that. And when you look at it, again, for this to be a 3-point shooting team, ironically enough, where they struggled in the first half of last game and ramped it up a little bit in the second half, they were just fine in the first half. And then in the second half, the Warriors went completely cold from 3 to where they shot just 8 of 27 from out there with a 29.6% clip. A lot of those missed threes came over that run, ironically enough. But at the same time, even though other players can step up, at the end of the day, when you go out and get Jimmy Butler III and you do expect him to kind of have that rise in the playoffs, for him to have just 14 points with 6 rebounds and 3 assists on 5 of 9 shooting in a game that was this important, knowing what's at stake, it's just not a good sight to see. And again, the Warriors, through all faults of their own, are now facing what is usually an insurmountable deficit. And you just make it much harder. Like, even there was something that did say literally earlier on that Curry doesn't necessarily plan to return for this potential Game 5. Or at least it's not looking that way. And I can't blame him. Again, with him dealing with what he's dealing with, you know that you're probably not going to get him back until he's at full strength recovering from that. And even all of these audio clips involving, I guess, Gary Payton II and Anthony Edwards statements, like, obviously you recognize that that is the plan, but yet as a whole, the team isn't executing to where you at least buy yourselves some time. And now you make it to where your last chance of potentially putting this series on hold and getting Stephen Curry back is not only for you to avoid getting eliminated in Minnesota at Game 5, but then even when Stephen Curry comes back in Game 6, if you do win the next one, he's got to come back and try to anchor the team to 2 straight wins afterwards. It's not impossible. 3-1 comebacks have happened before. And ironically enough, the Warriors have done it before. They were on the receiving end of losing after being up 3-1. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's highly improbable that something like that happens. That's what's got to be understood about this. And they seem to recognize it, but you're just not executing. It was already going to be hard enough to not have Stephen Curry. I get it. But, like, damn. Again. That just goes to show as well, though. For all of these people who want to continue saying that Stephen Curry is I guess, not as talented or as skilled or stuff like that. Just any sort of like weak points of criticism about Stephen Curry's game. This is where his gravity comes into play. Like, mind you, yes, Jimmy Butler III has been a sensation since getting there. He has helped to turn around the team's fortune this season. And yet, even him, with Draymond Green, can't muster up a victory in this particular series without him. So what does that tell you exactly? That should be very telling on so many fronts. But that'll do it for all the game action. There are some other developments that did come in though. So to start things out, Giannis would state yesterday that for the very first time in his career, he is open to exploring other options around the NBA outside of Milwaukee. Now, again, you can't confuse this with an outright trade request because that's not what this is. But what he is saying is that, hey, the team over the past 4 seasons has been incredibly disappointing. And when it comes to the playoffs, they have been. Multiple first-round exits, no conference finals appearances at this point to show for it, despite Giannis continuing to elevate his play on a yearly basis. Like, literally, for him to have one of his better seasons for a while there and still not even be an MVP consideration, by the way. That's getting wasted to just go out again in the first round in 6 games to the Pacers. You know, if you are the Bucks, that Giannis is trying to win championships there. He wants to be as loyal as he can to that organization. But at the same time, they are not doing anything for him right now. And so, if there's at least a chance to try and get another one with a team who's actually going to put together the most capable roster to potentially get there and win one, then again, Giannis is not necessarily shutting down the notion of moving on. He just wants to see how things are trending and that kind of thing. I can't blame him for it. Again, one of the more loyal players the NBA has to offer. And he did get a ring out of it. But in the same way that the league can ask, what have you done for me lately? Well, now Giannis is pondering that himself. And thinking that the Bucks might just not be able to ever reach those heights again at this point. Like, he is in the middle of his prime. And with the way he plays, like, obviously retirement isn't a close reality for him right now. But you truly don't know, even he may not know to an extent, how many years of peak physical dominance and basketball play he'll be able to provide for a team. So naturally, mutual sides would want to take advantage of that and maximize the opportunity. The Bucks have been seemingly doing a poor job at that. So unless something changes, then Giannis simply may ask for a change of scenery. But again, not a trade request. Just, a search for something. NBA on NBC is obviously going to make a return after the 11-year, $77 billion mega deal between ESPN, NBC, and Amazon for the rights to the NBA. Now, again, there are a number of directions in which all three of these companies, in essence, could really go when it comes to their on-air talent. In the NBA, I guess, specifically with their NBC division of this, they have decided to take a route not too dissimilar from what the NFL did in 2023 by hiring Tom Brady as a color commentator. Now, this isn't necessarily in the same vein. The man in question isn't getting paid a 10-year, $375 million deal before he steps in the booth. But they are getting a player who, depending on who you ask, is the best or the second best player in NBA history. And that would be none other than Michael Jordan, who NBC will formally bring on as a special contributor to the program in the fall. Special contributor could mean a number of things. He might not necessarily be a color commentator. He may just be there to provide a few insights per game, maybe join some of the, sets when it comes to being a little bit of an analyst or personality. There's no way to really define this right now. But still, you're going out there and you're getting one of the greatest players in NBA history to do this job. The NFL did the same thing with Tom Brady, so yeah, why not give it a shot? Especially when you're trying to bring forth a multitude of generations, old and young, traditional and new, to your brand for this upcoming NBA season and all of the rest to follow throughout the duration of this deal. Because if you're going to have that much money invested in that, you certainly want to make good on all of your products relating to this. I can't necessarily say that I know all too much about how Michael Jordan would work on camera. But I mean, we are talking about a person who did produce sound bites for days, of course, who has spent years in the spotlight in the league. And he has even cited himself that NBA on NBC was a key aspect of his own career. So he could be built for the moment. It might take him some time to get adjusted to being in the media space, and that is what it is. But hey, if things do go according to plan, my goodness, I mean, there would be nothing like sitting back and watching a basketball game go down, or even pre-game, post-game shows as well, and then having him come in and just give you knowledge left and right about all of the intricacies of the sport. Would be a premier learning experience, if nothing else. And he might be able to entertain you a little bit. Now, for all of the results in the NBA draft lottery. Essentially, the Suns are just fucked to start things out initially. Let's just put it like that. Okay, because with their pick swap, that was a part of this 3-team trade that sent Kevin Durant over to the Suns from Spurs, we knew that they were going to be fucked already, but it just got way worse with how things shaped up. Like, if you had the rights to your own pick, they would have literally had the 10th overall pick in this draft. Instead, because the Rockets, who they thought were just going to be struggling this entire time, they actually happened to be a pretty fucking good team in the regular season, finishing 52-30. And it was, I think, top 10 protected. So the only way that the Suns would have had access to that pick still is if the Rockets were just completely shit. And since they weren't, then the Rockets would retain that ownership or take it over for that spot to where they have the 10th overall pick in this draft. Insanity. As for how other things develop, when we get into the top 4, as all the picks 14 through 5 were announced, eventually it got to a point where the Hornets, the Mavericks, the Spurs, and the 76ers would be the top 4 teams in the 2025 NBA draft selection. Very interesting indeed. There was something about Cooper Flag's status still being a little bit uncertain when it came to the NBA draft, depending on all the teams involved in the first overall pick sweepstakes. And let's just say that with how things shaped up here, I mean, none of these teams would honestly be bad spots to end up for Cooper Flag at all. Mavs are a very solid roster, obviously. They did fuck shit up heavily, but they are still a very good constructed roster. Obviously, the Spurs are on the rise. The Hornets are also on the rise with a vault of assets, I suppose. Although some of the players that they currently have are just undesirable and frankly shouldn't be getting playing time in the NBA. But that's neither here nor there. And then the 76ers, they simply had a down year last season. To potentially bring in Cooper Flag and have him learn from Paul George, also being able to give you very solid reps at a young age to start out wouldn't be a terrible thing either for a team trying desperately to finish out the process and go get a damn championship. But as fate would have it, the 76ers would not be able to do that because the Hornets would get the 4th overall pick, the 76ers would get the 3rd overall pick, and then it was just between 1 and 2. The Spurs would hear their name called with the 2nd overall pick, and that would mean that the Mavs, with the 4th lowest odds in NBA history ever, at 1.8% out of teams who actually win a draft lottery. Not only did they get the 1st overall pick, but won the draft lottery for the first time in their franchise. And it will mark their highest selection in their franchise's history since Mark Aguirre in 1981. Now, obviously, a lot has happened over the past 44 years. Shit, a lot has happened for this franchise in just the last few months. But yet, somehow, through it all, they do find a potential way back by getting this pick. Now, obviously, if they do take Cooper Flag, that would be great. There's still a great chance, however, that they don't take him and go elsewhere. And at that point, like with so many people just having Cooper Flagg or making him out to be the consensus number one pick, if they actually go ahead, get the number one overall pick, retain it, and they don't pick Cooper Flagg, that would just make things even worse in Dallas for so many people. But hey, they've got a chance to try and start making things right, I guess, getting back in fans' good graces, I suppose. Nico Harrison went ballistic when he got it, or when he saw how things shaped up. But again, you still have to go out there and make the proper decision. In terms of fit, obviously you would still have, I guess, one of Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively II coming off the bench, with Anthony Davis being the power forward. I would assume that because P.J. Washington Jr. doesn't fit the traditional role of being a small forward, even though they have given him burn at that position in the past, Cooper Flagg probably fits more of the true small forward prototype. And also, from how things have been looking in his college career, P.J. Washington Jr. would certainly remain a worse fit at the small forward position compared to a young 19-year-old Cooper Flagg, as interesting as that would be to say. Like, already there are questions about P.J. Washington Jr.'s size at playing that position in the first place. And then you have Cooper Flagg coming in, who essentially does a little bit of everything. And especially for what the Mavericks are going to need when it comes to being able to facilitate and playmake from the wing position. P.J. Washington Jr. is not adept at doing that whatsoever. So that would be huge for a unit who would be waiting for still a little while to get Kyrie Irving back. Because if you need to have it happen, you could rely on having him play point forward, if need be. And then obviously you're still going to have Klay starting at the shooting guard position. For whatever reason, somebody is thinking about the fact that, P.J. Washington Jr. would start at shooting guard over Klay Thompson. Person must have been out of his fucking mind. There are already questions about his fit at both forward positions, but they've gotten more comfortable with playing him at the 4 at times. Okay. You want him to be a guard and potentially handle the ball. Fucking crazy statement. Absolutely not. There's just no shot that is going to happen. But hey, yeah, Mavericks get that. They've got a chance. They've got a fighting chance. They better do the right thing. That's really it. Also, the Blazers would get, I think, the 11th overall pick as well. To segue, the Blazers franchise would be put up for sale by the estate of former, I guess, Blazers Seahawks owner Paul Allen. Obviously, he did pass away in 2018 with his family, I think Jody Allen at the time, and currently is still the Seahawks owner. But they don't want anything to do with the Blazers franchise anymore. And honestly, a change on both sides might be needed, because the Blazers just, I don't know, they just seem to have hit a wall over the past few seasons. Obviously, it's going to be rough without Damian Lillard, but still, they haven't truly shaken back from that whatsoever. Like, a lot of change has gone on in that organization as it is. So to continue to hold ownership of a team desperately looking for some form of change. It just doesn't feel like the right thing to do anymore, and they just want to move on from it. I don't really have an idea of who would buy, but you hope that the next buyer and owner of the team can actually put forth capable rosters, bring in quality talent, not just on the court, but also in the front office and in other positions around the organization to restore, or even, well, not even restore. I mean, there were times where the Blazers were truly good. And obviously, I guess glory days would be all the way back when Drexler was there. You're naturally going to be trying to reach those heights again. You better just hope that the next owner can do that. But that'll do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.